The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to RIA Match's webinar, Applying the Power of Authenticity to Succession Planning, What to Do with Your Business and Your Life. I'm Mary Ann Buchanan, founder of RIA Match. The demographic reality of financial advisors is that the average advisor is in his late 50s. He works by himself, and more than 60% of us have no succession plan. As heightened fiduciary requirements for retirement accounts and the amount of time needed for compliance and record keeping continue expanding, many seasoned advisors are considering retirement. Yet, not all are doing so thoughtfully, strategically, or even in their client's best interest. According to Mark DeBergen, 20% of advisors will retire in the next 5 years through a planned retirement or other unexpected issues. Succession planning is a serious discussion, and we want you to be a part of it. Thank you for coming. Let me cover some quick housekeeping rules. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface, so you should see something looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right-hand corner. You're listening using your computer's speaker system by default, but if you'd prefer to join over the phone, just select the telephone section in the audio panel, and then the dial-in information will be displayed. Well, let's do an audio check. Raise your hand if you can hear me. Do you see on the little bar there where the little hand is? Just click that, and let's just see if we've got anybody that can hear me. Anybody raising their hand? I do not see anybody raising their hand. Come on, guys. Huh. Let's see. Interesting. Okay, here. So, oh, great. Great, thanks. So I am heard. Thank you for responding. Very good. Does anybody else see the little hand? If they want to raise it, they can. Perfect. Actually, I see hands raised. Perfect. It was me there. I was clicking on the wrong device. Okay, great. So your line is muted, and that's automatically done by the webinar. You can view your presentation in full screen mode, and here's how you do that. On the top of the attendee control panel, you select View Menu, Full Screen, or you can click that View button, which is, again, right above that little hand-raising button, and that's you can toggle between full screen and window mode. So we want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and it'll be up on the RIA Match site by tomorrow. Be sure and let your colleagues know the session's recorded, and they can listen to it at their convenience. So you see the question box? That's where we're going to take questions. If a question comes to mind, just type it in the box, and we'll either answer it at that point or we'll come around and be sure and answer all the questions at the end. Remember, keep your questions sort of general, anonymous, high level, but get your thoughts out and ask what you'd like. So let's go ahead and test our question box. And now I've got my eye on the right little mode there. So everyone type into the question box the city that you are calling from. All right, let's see. Okay, Boston. Austin, Washington, D.C., Sausalito. Well, we're going from coast to coast. Nice. El Dorado Hills, California, and Denver. All right, great. All right, so Fairfax, nice. Ridgefield, Connecticut, New York City. Awesome, awesome. So that's exactly where you go to put in questions. Now, during the webinar, we're going to conduct polling questions. And so you'll be able to just click in, and you'll be able to answer the poll, and then we share the results with you as we go. It's often insightful. Okay, so that's housekeeping. So thank you for coming. We trust you will gain valuable information. So let me tell you about RIA Match. The RIA Match has two platforms, or two offerings. There's the RIA Match platform. So that's low cost, month to month. You can upgrade and downgrade on a monthly basis. Low cost, self-service solutions for succession planning and growth. The platform matches financial advisors with other financial advisors and firms who want to buy, sell, merge, join, or add advisors to their practice. The advisors and the RIAs can search for free and pay to connect, anonymously and securely. Now, RIA Match Concierge Consulting That's a little bit more service. So that leverages the combination of our platform with its proprietary matching algorithms with a consultant, where we increase the probability and sort of satisfaction of your match. What our consultants do is we provide advice to crystallize your firm's vision and goals. Then we create an action plan, what we call a roadmap, and then we begin acting on the roadmap for you. So this is very helpful when you have someone acting as your agent, stepping back from the canvas to take a look at what your choices are, sort of reality testing it with other industry norms. So it gives you a greater sense of clarity, confidence, and an enduring match. Our goal at RIA Match is to bring advisors and firms the most efficient tools and excellent information so you can make the best decisions for the succession and growth of your firm. RIA Match has over 3,000 subscribers from 49 states that manage in excess of $250 billion of AUM. What I'd like to do is introduce you to Jack Beauregard. But before I give you details on Jack, I suppose many of our attendees, like myself, listen to Car Talk on NPR on Saturday mornings. From Harvard Square in Cambridge, Mass., Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers, answered our car challenges with humor, wisdom, and existential grace that we didn't want to admit our cars deserved. But one of the reasons that Tom and Ray reached us is that many of us have a bit of our identity tied up in our cars. Well, Jack Beauregard is also from Harvard Square in Cambridge, Mass., and he'll answer our succession challenges and share his wisdom and existential grace about our advisory firms, where we tie up our identity even more than we tie up on our car. Jack is CEO of Successful Transition Planning Institute. It's an internationally recognized thought leader in personal and business transition planning. Jack's got certified associates on 4 continents, and he's helped thousands of people rethink and reframe their lives so they can successfully transition their companies to new ownership and themselves into new lives. Jack just released a new book available on Amazon now called 7 Principles for Living with Authenticity, Discovering Your True Self When Facing Life's Changes. And it shows financial planners how to connect with their true selves. Jack's presented his unique head and heart approach to making major transitions on many radio and television programs, including NPR and the Voice of America Worldwide program, as well as numerous conferences around the country. Jack and I were just at FPA together. So Jack, welcome to RIA Match.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do before I am going to give Jack a chance to talk, I promise. But what I want to do is share with you, oh, by the way, I'm going to be moderating the panel, but as you can tell. But what I wanted to do is share with you the results of the questions you answered when you registered for the webinar. What I think is important to know is who's on the call with us, who's in the room, even if it's a virtual room, right? So we're evenly split in the room between early practitioners, those with less than 10 years of business, 10 years of experience in the business, and mature practices, those with greater than 10 years in the business. 25% of those attending have more than 200 million of AUM. 75% have less than 200 million of AUM. So that's actually a little bigger than than the industry as a whole. Half of you have documented succession plans. The industry average is about 30% having documented succession plans. So we've got a good group here that's responsive. Also, we asked you, do you have a plan for your post-retirement life? And again, about half of you said that you did. So this is all great news. What we know is that the need for succession and contingency planning has always been a topic of discussion, but now there's a new sense of urgency. In June of 2016, the SEC proposed a new rule requiring advisors to adopt and implement business continuity and transition plans. What they want, and they're requiring advisors to have a written business and continuity and transition plan designed to address operational and key employee risks that would cause a significant disruption to the investment advisor's operations. So this is not just, so this is key man, but it's also what if there's a hurricane. I think, Hurricane Sandy was a big influence on the SEC saying, we've had Katrina and then years later Sandy, we need to make sure that physically there's backup plans, that's contingency, but also key man. So the comment period for the proposed rule ended in September. So while everyone's focused on the DOL, we wait to see what the SEC final ruling is here. But I think it's a good idea that we accept the likelihood that some version of required succession planning is coming. And very typically what happens is the SEC will come down with a ruling, and then all the states, for those who are state-registered RIAs, the states tend to adopt a near-identical rule to the SEC. Okay, so we're going to launch our first poll. So let's come in here and do that. All right, are you ready, guys? Bring your tab to the front. How long until you see yourself retiring? 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, longer than 10, or I have no current plans to retire. So we'll leave the poll open for, this is obviously an easy one. We don't need to think too long on that, but we'll leave it open for maybe 30, 40 seconds, and then we'll share the results with you. So we have 67% that have participated. That's great. A couple more people. Bring that tab to the front of your screen and just vote for me. It takes just a second, because it's really interesting to see what the results are. Okay, I'm going to close the poll. We've got a good percentage that have voted. Okay, let me share the results with you. Okay, so Jack, what are your thoughts on this poll results?
It's obviously the numbers are longer than 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's for the attendees who are looking out that period of time. This conversation pertains to them in regards to helping them work more efficiently with business owners in the baby boomer market, which obviously has a lot of liquidity event. So the webinar is both personal for the people who are looking at the 1 to 5 or 6 to 10 years, but also for the ones who are longer, because it'll help them be more efficient with interacting with the owners.
Right, right. And so not only is this important for the advisors in their own firms, but if you have an understanding of the process involved, then you can actually help the baby boomers who are your clients. So not only for yourself, but how you can bring this value to your clients. And I think having the longer than 10 years, how long would you say it takes, Jack, to sort of from I need to begin a succession plan to, actually putting it together? How long would you say that takes?
3 to 5 years, and the reason why is that you want to do an evolutionary process where you can, number one, for your business, it takes time to transition the business to new ownership, but also it takes time to transition yourself into a new life. And
Right.
the time to do that is not when you're falling off a cliff. The best time is to do it beforehand, get yourself prepared, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, lifestyle prepared, so you can see what's working, what's not working, so you're ready to launch when you do leave.
Yep. And what's impressive is that if you look at the numbers here just from the polling, it's really only 7% 1 to 5 and 7% I have no current plan to retire. So the bulk have given themselves enough time to put
Yes.
together a good result. Jack, how does the personal identity of owners influence succession planning? And do you need me to hand you the controls, or do you want to answer that before you get controls?
Why don't I'll answer this before
Okay.
before you switch over the controls. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And the reason why is the identity of owners really determines how they think about a business succession, how they feel about themselves while transitioning the business to ownership. And it also has a direct impact on how much they value themselves outside of running a business.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years in the exit planning field, I have seen how the issue of identity has been the core issue that has held owners back from even wanting to think about the very subject of what they're going to do with their business, which is interesting because on the average, 80% of an owner's net worth is tied up in their companies. So they need that liquidity event for the future, but the whole idea of leaving, they found it sane. And
I agree, yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting is that on my walk in the morning, I pass a bicycle shop up here in Cambridge. Yes, I'm a Boston accent. I parked the car at Harvard Yard. So what it is that it's interesting in the bicycle shop, in the front window, there's a unicycle bike, which I still have no idea how anybody can ride it. But it really reminds me that about the situation with so many owners, is that there's only one tire on the bike, which very much symbolizes their fused identity, because they believe that what they are is what they do. And also is that in the exit planning arena is that we first came out with a program to help them create a new dynamic and purposeful life. But really was the accounting profession was asking, can you come up with a new program to help them deal with the whole issue of leaving? And it's the reasons why it came from the accountants, because usually they're the most trusted advisor to business owners.
Right.
And they have a long relationship. So an accountant will go to say Bill, and he goes, Bill, you're 68 years old, 80% of your worth is time in business. What are you going to do with the company? And the answer is, talk to me. I don't want to talk about it. Or talk to me in 5 years. AKA, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, or 2 years down the road, or 2 years down the road,
yep.
And they kind of kick the can. And what I find, Jack, is that the tenacity and the drive that it takes, and the courage it takes to build your own business, whether it's an advisory firm or another small business, it's that drive and determination that makes you successful. But it also is what makes it hard to hand over the reins, especially in a solo practitioner, someone it's their own business and it's all up to them. And sure, they may have junior advisors, they may have assistants, but actually seeing someone as the next leader, it's a very difficult hurdle to cross over.
It is, and also so many of them are emotionally tied. It's their baby.
That's right. That's right.
They're so they've had it 10, 20, 30 years, and so there's a real strong emotional attachment. And the other one goes back to the identity issue, is their inability to answer the question, I am a business owner. Who am I when I no longer own a business?
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
So that's really existential, and that's what really causes them not to want to think about the whole idea of leaving.
And I just want to jump in here, Jack, and say that not only have you yourself been in business for decades, you too went to Harvard Divinity School, so you actually looked at this from the mechanics of the business as well as the head and the heart, which I think is really a unique path to get there. To have stopped and done that in the middle of it all was very cool. So are you ready, Jack, for me to give you control? To make you the presenter?
Yep.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, so now we should be seeing, and then actually let me close the poll. I forgot to close the poll. Let me see if I can do that first. That would have been a good thing to do. Okay, I've closed the poll, so Jack, why don't you try sharing your screen?
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. The other reason why, besides that, is that go back personally. I have left a company. So I had built in the 70s, 80s. I had built a national first cost containment orthopedic company. I was in total hips and total knees. And took an idea and brought it into 42 states with 125 salesmen. And long story short, my wife, 34 years old, I had breast cancer with a metastasized to live, and we had a 2-year-old son.
Yikes.
So what it was, all of a sudden I became Mr. Mom. I could not, be flying around the country with the company I started. So I know what it is to all of a sudden leave a company, a business that you built as an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And that was one of my motivations also, was to really find out how can people make a successful transition into a new stage of their lives for the experience. And I think the first question is, is how does the process of absolute positive thinking hold owners back from thinking about and executing a successful business transition?
Right, right. And do you want to tell me what absolute positive thinking means, or am I jumping the gun?
No. The answer is really it's a thought process that causes owners to believe that they always need to think and act positively, and which causes them to avoid anything that they perceived as being negative.
Okay.
Personally, is that I was always a believer in. I used to be in sales for Johnson & Johnson and Bard, so I was totally into the self-help area. So I would listen to the tapes, I read the books. So I was really a self-help junkie. But what's really interesting is that I would actually feel worse after doing all the reading and listening. And the reason why is because I would agree with what they were talking about, but I was still doing negative things.
Right.
And this first slide of absolute positive thinking really shows the negative effect of on owners of absolute positive thinking. And
okay,
for the listeners,
then how does this work?
Yeah, and for the listeners who are not going to be leaving, 7 to 10 years, this slide will really help you understand the psychological and cognitive process that is going on with the owners, or why they are not mentally or emotionally ready to do a transaction. Going to leave the companies. The first one is that the absolute positive thinking is based on a logical premise that A is A, nothing but A, which is actually known in the logic area as a principle of identity. This is what causes many owners to believe that I am a businessman and nothing but a business owner. They can't move on. And then personally, I found that absolute thinking was the limited thinking style of my own false self. But actually, absolute thinking is a distorted way of thinking. And also it's known as all or nothing thinking, which limits the effectiveness of owners by preventing them from seeing the full range of possibilities, both for their businesses and their lives.
Yeah, but sometimes it's feeling like if I consider the negative, I'm pulled toward that.
That's actually a fallacy, because I think you're going to see is that by not being aware of the negative, that's what sabotages people.
Yeah.
And that is, we're in a culture that really drums into us. You always have to think positively. And when we work with people creating options for their life, they can very much think of the positive ones, which confirms what you're saying, but they have a real hard time looking at the downsides of that option. Because it's a false belief. If I think the downside, then I won't do it. It totally negates the positive. Not the case.
Right. Okay.
So really, it comes down to is that over the years I've seen many examples of how an exclusive focus on the positive has caused business owners to make personal and business decisions that are doomed to fail, because it causes them to take a number of unsuccessful approaches to transitioning their companies to new ownership or transitioning themselves into the next chapter of their lives. For example, absolute positive thinking causes owners to view a business succession from an exclusive black or white perspective, and to categorize leaving as either all good or all bad. This categorical aspect of absolute positive thinking limits their ability to be able to think about the present and the future of the businesses. It also causes them to only be able to focus on running the business on a day-to-day basis at the expense of having a long-term vision for the companies. Very much what they have to do. Once they get into the companies, they're the COO, Chief Operating Officer. But what they need to do is assume a new role of a CEO, whose main function is to look where a corporation or a large company is going to be 3 to 5 years from now.
Right. I've heard that as like the heads down and the heads up. The heads up is the CEO and the heads down is the COO. But the trick here with a lot of small firms is these guys are wearing every hat there is. And it's exhausting. It's very hard to work in your business and on your business at the same time. That's why bringing in a consultant can help.
Definitely, it definitely can. But the one thing is too, though, is that if I have a vision of where I want this company to go, then it draws me. If I'm just in the minutia of dealing with the day-to-day issues, I find that to be draining.
Right.
But if I have a mission and a future that I know where this company is going to be 3 to 5 years from now, I have something to work forward to.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of the vision it draws. The absolute positive thinking also creates a black and white perspective, which often results in owners' indecisions. This is a main issue in the exit plan arena. Typically, an owner will go to his accountant, again, the most trusted advisor, and say, I want to sell the business. Then the accountant will refer them to an M&A person, an investment banker, or a business broker. And what happens is there's been no preparation on the regards to the soft issues of the owner.
Right.
So often when I've heard in this field is that when the owner walks in the door, the professional is thinking, is this owner serious, semi-serious, or kicking tires? And the reason why they got burnt so often by owners saying they want to sell and then experiencing cold feet, and they pull out of it.
Right.
And that usually has a very negative effect on the business itself, because all of a sudden now the owner's going back and forth. Should I or shouldn't I leave?
Yeah, and what happens is they get down the path on a discussion and things are lining up, and then when it comes to it, the seller can't bring themselves to do it.
Yep.
And it's a huge waste of effort and energy and money on everybody's part, though. It's very frustrating.
And they're going to lose money because it's strictly supply and demand. You've got 8 million business owners, baby boomers, who are going to be leaving their companies in the near future. There's going to be a heck of a lot more sellers than are going to be buyers.
Right, right.
Which means they're going to get less value for the companies.
Yep.
Then also it creates an absolute focus on the positive, creates extreme perfectionism. There's nothing wrong with owners having a high standards or being good with details and taking the time to do a job well done. If they also recognize that making mistakes is part of the process, they can learn from mistakes. But extreme perfectionism means that the owners always have to be totally perfect, period. And fortunately, the flip side of an extreme perfectionism is that no matter how hard they try, they can never quite measure up to the absolute standards they have set for themselves. This causes many owners to believe that if they make even one mistake during the transition process, they consider themselves as a personal failure, which often results in many owners not even wanting to do anything to start the business succession process. Real simple. If I do nothing, I can't do anything wrong. And that's the fear of making a mistake is the biggest fear of a perfectionist.
Right, right.
Then it also causes the need for owners to always think positively, which causes them to believe that the first idea that comes into their mind is absolutely the right one without any analysis. So they just take the idea that comes to them, this is it, and they run with it. But also what it does is that it sends out a one-dimensional positive projection. And
so that's what this gold line is representing?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
So this is it. So this is the one idea I have. This is absolutely the right one. That's why it's in gold, and just run with it. Mm-hmm. But in regards to their life after leaving the company, we have a term for this. It's called post-transactional stress disorder, the other PSTD.
Right.
And usually what they'll do, they'll take one idea and say, I want to play golf, or I want to be near the grandchildren. And that's it. And they go out and do it, and usually it's around 6 to 8 months after they have left. For originally it's a honeymoon, it's euphoric after they get the check for the company. But then they get this one idea, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, playing golf every day is no longer fun.
Right. old.
Or guess what? The grandchild doesn't want to sit on grandpa's knee every day. They got a life of their own. And because they only have this one idea, which they thought was absolutely perfectly right, because they didn't do any analysis of it, they end up they become bored, they get depressed, they get stressed out, and they're going to die prematurely.
So what do we do?
Well, that's what I'm going to show you. The next
Sorry.
slide. The other one it creates is that absolute thinking creates a false facade, which needs to support its illusionary existence. You know, a key characteristic of being an owner of a business is that, you know, we're high achievers. That's a real, you know, you referred to at the beginning.
Yep.
But a core belief of absolute positive thinking is that owners are their accomplishments and are valued according to their accomplishments. This means if they leave the companies, they will no longer have the opportunities to accomplish, which causes them to feel that they'll have no personal value. And if the owners identify themselves with their achievements, it causes them to believe that they are personally important as long as they keep on achieving, which makes it hard for them to wrap their minds around the very idea of leaving the companies.
Right.
And also the facade, I've seen this so often, causes owners to have an exclusive external focus on whatever widget or service that makes them money. They're totally externally focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that, you know, many owners are great in checking things off their to-do list, but they have very poor introspective skills, which is essential for them to know what they really want to do with the business in their life. They're not going to get that answer.
It's painful, though. It's painful, and
painful.
it's hard to think about those things.
And that's why so often they want to just keep a exclusive focus on the external.
Right. Like, let's just do quarterly meetings. Let's do our marketing. Let's just go forward with the machine.
Yep.
And not have to think, oh, I can relate to that.
The other one, how this prism, I should say the facade does, is called the prism effect. So what happens is it only lets in information from the outside world, which confirms the assumptions and beliefs of the positive thinking.
Yeah, confirmation bias.
You got it, exactly. And if anything doesn't filter through the prism effect, it's rationalized away, which often causes owners to take an ad hoc approach to the companies, because then it causes them to falsely believe that they don't need to do transition planning for either their business or their lives. Things are just magically going to happen for them. Things will just fall in place. There will be, once they decide to leave the company, there'll be buyers just waiting in the wings for them. Not true.
Right. No, and what often happens is if they wait until they're, as time marches on and they get older and their client base gets older, then the value of their firm is declining. And so that's a challenge too, is that this is a difficult chapter to address. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But.
No, it's true. Most people have started a business, grown a business, with very few people, unless you're a serial entrepreneur, have left a business. So this is really terra incognito for most owners, and it's scary. But it also, that positive, absolute positive thinking causes owners to take an unfocused approach to the idea of business succession, which causes them not to know who I am or what I really want to do with my company. The next negative effect of positive thinking causes owners to repress anything that they consider as negative, including a business succession. It's repression.
We call that compartmentalizing that, right? So we don't have to think about it. Guys are particularly good at that. Sorry.
Yep, get rid of it. So, and that's why, this is the reason why so many owners are asked, what do you want to do with your business? It's like, I don't want to talk about it. Just repress the whole idea from it. And then what it causes is that it creates a polarized perspective, which causes owners to be only to view a business succession as being negative. And then also it takes them a fragmentary approach, which creates a tendency to be only focusing on the numbers at the expense of the emotional issues, which are inherent part of the business succession process.
Oh, that's a very
When I
good
first started the institute years ago, it was when I would bring up the soft issues, the head and heart issues, to the transactional people. I could see their eyes glaze over. It's like it's all about the numbers. So numbers are important. That's darn sure. But it was no, it's transaction. But it's amazing over the years to see. All of a sudden, these same advisors is like, oh my word, you're the missing sauce, or you can grease the skids of a transaction, because they have found out over the years is that the soft issues are really the hard issues. And until that owner can wrap their head and mind around the whole idea of leaving, nothing's going to happen.
Right. Right.
What happens is when what they consider as negative is repressed down, it goes into a subconscious category, what the famous psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow. And also it's where the fears that reside in this whole issue of leaving the company. Over the years I found that there's actually 34 fears that can get triggered when people make major life transitions. And 14 are owner-specific, and the remaining 38 fears are common to everyone. And what we have done is we have developed an online fear-related questionnaire report, which includes a 4-step methodology that allows owners to be able to move beyond the fears and so they can think about transitioning their businesses to new ownership. It's interesting. After taking the questionnaire, most owners have about 11 to 13 fears that are involved.
Yeah.
And when you come down to it, usually there's a core of maybe 4 to 5 fears. That is the core of it all. And what they do is they provide negative energy that reinforces them. And once the owners become aware of these fears that are sabotaging them, is all of a sudden the other fears, they either evaporate in the light of awareness or they just become concerned.
Yep. I just want to say it's really good that everyone's listening to this in their own office and their own quiet, private space, so that this can become a very personal discussion, right? We're not in a conference room with everybody looking at each other sideways, right?
Right, right.
Some benefit to the privacy of this conversation. Okay, sorry, keep jumping.
Then what happens is that repressed negativity, those fears, what it's done is a next projection out, and that's a negative projection out. And what it is that William James, the famous American psychologist, found out is that we use people, place, and things to confirm our beliefs. So what happens is the owners will, if they got this, they repressed any negative ideas about the process of leaving, it's going to be bounced back to them, which is totally going to confirm why they don't want to leave. So that's that's why they'll say, I don't want to leave because I don't want to fall into a void. I don't want to go into a black hole.
Right.
And then the last process is the denial process, because then the owner is not able to know what the heck is going on underneath the surface. And this is really responsible for seller's remorse. When I was in the M&A field doing the people and cultural integrations, I would see so often halfway, 3/4 into the transaction, the owner is saying all the correct things on top of the conference table. They're meeting their financial objectives. But because of these repressed negativity and these unresolved fears, they'll sabotage the deal for absolutely no business reason.
Right.
And
I've actually had it come to really far along the discussion, and the objection way far in was their ticket charges are too high. And I was like, okay, let's everybody take a break. So it's that thing. It's not really, it's like being at the end of the diving board and not being able to jump.
Yep. X number of months ago, I was talking to an M&A person down in Florida. They actually had a buyer with a pen in hand in the lawyer's office. He put the pen down and couldn't sign the agreement. And this has become such a major issue in the investment banking and the merger and acquisition field that a lot of firms now are putting major penalty clauses into their contracts. Because if an owner sabotages, kills the deal for no business reasons, you know, they have a lot, even if they got a retainer, they've gone through that money. They got burnt so often with this. And if you look at
I want to just pause 1 second here, Jack, because I'm getting a couple questions, but I can't see the slides advancing. So you've, I'm just going to, I'll ask Paul. Paul, you can see who I am here. Can you see the slides advancing now? Just so maybe answer that. Just make sure there wasn't a an issue there. Okay, go ahead, Jack. He hasn't answered, but let's just see. Sort of a yes or no, Paul Cronin. Let me know what you see there, since I know Paul's in the audience. Okay.
Okay, but really, it's too bad because if you can't see it, because really comes down to is that the visual image of this whole process is really creates a in-the-box mindset, which does not allow the owners to either be mentally, emotionally ready for a business succession.
And just to the group, Paul, thanks, sir. We are on the absolute positive thinking slide. I think they were just concerned that we had advanced slides and they weren't seeing it.
No,
I think we're good. Okay.
Yeah, this is showing all the process. Now, I think you have another question for me.
Thank you. So, how does a new, authentic way of thinking? So, we've talked about, as we looked in the, absolute positive thinking, we have a hard time. We just want to be positive. We sort of sabotage ourselves. So, how does a new, authentic way of thinking help owners make successful and satisfying decisions? So, how does this work in our business lives and in our personal lives?
Okay, so to go back, is that what I just covered for the listeners who are not going to be leaving for a long time, this helps them understand the mindset of the owners who can't do a business succession.
And this is very
this one here is.
I'm sorry. That's also very helpful what you've just gone through, Jack, for someone who's actually in a firm that has other partners and they get frustrated because the partner can't move forward.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So now this one applies to everybody. This is more of a personal section. And really, before you can apply the power of authenticity to succession planning, to know what you really want to do with your business and your life, you first need to know what is authenticity itself, which is, it's defined by Webster's dictionary as a state of being, which is why when you think about what you want to do with your business and your life, from the core of who you really are, you will know what you really want to do with your business and your life. And authenticity provides peace of mind in the knowledge that the decision you make will resonate with who you really are. And it also provides a balanced way of thinking that allows you to get out of the box perspective in which how you view the future in your business and your life. The circle represents who you really are, your true self. And one truism that I really have found over the years in this transition planning field is that you need to know who you really are in order for you to know what you really want to do with your business and your life. That's a real truism. And again, in my morning walk in Cambridge, getting in that bicycle shop where I pass, there's also a two-wheel bike. And to me, that symbolizes what owners need to do. Is they're in the seat, and the back wheel represents, who they really are, and then the front wheel represents what they really want to do with the companies in their lives. And this separation then allows them to be able to view the company not as a personal emotional attachment, but really as a business, which then allows them to do the needed improvements to get it ready for attractive to a new buyer. And then to make a successful business succession and create a satisfying life after leaving the company, owners need to have an expanded thought process called thinking, which is based on the law of complementary opposites. This expands their thinking to the fact that everything has an opposite, which allows you not to have to be stuck with one option for your business or for your life. So everything that exists has a shadow. And furthermore, while absolute thinking says that something is totally good or totally bad. Balanced thinking allows you to be aware that everything has both positive and negatives, both upside and downsides. And what the way you can change your thinking to a balanced way is to first expand your thinking to create an opposite alternative to whatever seems is your only choice, because now you can see both alternatives at the same time.
Right.
So the resulting both approach of balanced thinking is truly a sophisticated way of thinking that allows you to deal with complexity that's involved in transitioning your company to new ownership and yourself into a new life. In fact, there was a study done at the Rotman School of Management up at the University of Toronto by Roger Martin, and what he did was they studied the top 50 executives in the United States, and what they found out was the key to their success was the ability to be able to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time. So when the unsuccessful way is they took an idea came up, again from absolute positive thinking, took that idea, grabbed that idea, and that's the only way to go. This way here they could look at two options and feel comfortable with it. And also created a lot more innovative steps they never had thought of.
And it allows you to be objective too.
Exactly.
It's really about stepping back from the canvas. And it's very hard to do, but when you do it, you get this broader, thinking.
You're an observer. You can make a factual decision.
Right.
You're in the middle. And then the next thing to do is to look for the negative and the positive and the negative, because it does exist.
So what do you mean by that? The positive, the negative, the positive.
Okay. Well, let's say, for instance, is that I want to do work after I leave my company. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, if I want to leave my work, that might be at the expense that I won't be able to with my wife.
Right.
Or so every idea has a downside.
The zero-sum game.
No, the other one really is the absolute thinking is a zero-sum, I win, you lose, competitive. I got to be on the top, number one. This one here is saying is no. You take a holistic approach to every decision you make. There's an upside and a downside. I'll give you an example, for instance. I think we all would agree that love is wonderful. But if you go to an extreme, it becomes stifling, smothering.
Right.
And personally, I'm a loyal person. In my life, I've experienced my loyalty as a negative. I've been loyal to a fault. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, there's a positive and a negative in everything.
Yep.
Then now you can look at the situation from an expanded perspective. And the third step is by doing the two steps, you're now able to see three different alternatives. You can see one side or the other or both together. Mm-hmm. A familiar example of the everyday world is the old question: is this glass half empty or half full?
Yep.
But by applying the process of balanced thinking, you can now answer the glass can be seen as half empty, or it can be seen as half full, or I can see both answers are true, because really it's filled with liquid and the other half is filled with air. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, in each we have in our process, we use a decision-making style questionnaire report, and I found over the years in studies, it was actually at the Harvard Business School, that there are 5 distinct ways people make high-stake decisions. Each of us have a default way to do it, and it feels comfortable. So push come to shove, a person's going to, especially when they say, what am I going to do with my business, or what am I going to do with my life, is going to use a default way of thinking. But of these 5 decision-making styles, each one has a strength and a weakness, downside to it. There's no perfect one. Well, the beauty of it is when you're aware of your style, you know the upside to it, you know the downside, then you can add the But the positive, so to counterbalance it, now you're going to make robust decisions,
Yeah.
both personal and professional.
And so that's what you would say, Jack. So, sort of in succession planning. So what are the emotional advantages of being authentic? That's really what that is, right?
This is still actually in the cognitive component,
Okay.
because it really comes down to is that the authentic balance aspect of the new way of thinking provides successful ways for you to approach the subject of what am I going to do with my business and my life.
Mm-hmm.
The first is a factual approach,
Right.
which helps you avoid the negative consequences of repression and the denial of absolute thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second is for you to take a reciprocal approach, which helps you to avoid a categorical thinking about what you're going to do with your business and your life. Then there's a substantive approach that helps you avoid an unfocused way of thinking. And then a continuing approach helps you avoid a polarized thinking about what you're going to do with your company.
Mm-hmm.
And then a portfolio approach would help you avoid taking a fragmentary way of thinking. And the sixth way is to take a process approach that helps you avoid a perfectionist way of thinking about your future. And then the seventh way is to take an operational approach that helps you avoid taking the ad hoc way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But the emotional question is, it provides you with the power for you to choose a positive attitude. That's the key, not positive thinking, because you can choose your attitude in any situation.
Right. Right.
It also allows you to have the confidence knowing that you're making the business and personal transitions successfully, and also provides peace of mind in knowing that you're making your decision on an authentic foundation, since you're making your choices based on your core values.
Yep. Yep.
And I really find it saves a heck of a lot of energy that I was wasting in maintaining that false facade and all the illusionary processes that were created by balanced thinking.
Right. Right.
So I'm going to switch the slides over to you.
Okay, great. So we are going to launch our next poll, and Jack, what I want to say is that this is heavy discussion. This is not easy for, and as I'm talking here, I'm just going to advance through the slides that you just showed them. It's not easy for us to think about these things, and intellectually, we know we need to address succession. And so the difficulty of getting to that is hard. That is a challenge. That is a challenge. So what I want to do now is I'm going to launch one more poll. And again, this is sort of a deep question, right? Are you able to answer the question, who am I when I no longer own my firm? So it's just a quick yes or no. Guys, pop to the front, pop up the slide to the front and just weigh in here with me for a minute. Well, this is great. This is very helpful. We've got 100% yes so far. So that's a couple more votes here. Just jump in on our yeses and I'll be, there we go. Great. So the thing is, we are preaching to the choir somewhat here. We've got advisors who are on this webinar because they're actively seeking solutions. So I'm going to close the poll here and share it. And this is, no surprise to anyone. 100% of those who answered said, yes, I know who I am when I no longer own my firm. But I just caution you, when you are looking to buy another firm or merge with a firm or sell your firm to someone, they may not know who they are when they no longer own their firm. So, and I know when we talk about it in this academic environment, it seems like, oh, this is not a problem, and of course this seems so straightforward. When we take it out and look at the theory, and Jack, you've gone through taking a sort of step by step through the process of theory, that's great. And we're all go, oh yes, of course, this all makes sense. But it's execution on it that's tough. And remembering when we go to interact with someone, how could this possibly be affecting them? So not just ourselves, but how is it affecting the people that we're working with? Okay, I'm gonna hide the poll again here, and so you should see. I'm gonna go to our next question. So we have these roads, right? We have these, the path not taken kind of thing, right? So what is a third alternative for owners from boring retirement or dying at our desks, or what I like to call yielding to maturity? What is our third alternative?
It's called the platinum years. It's
Okay.
because most owners on that rutted road on the right, if the best thing they can do is die at the desk, they're going to just stay there. And the road to the left is well worn, and that goes to traditional retirement. And most baby boomers are not interested in doing that at all. They don't want to.
Right.
So
and
that,
we're going to live longer too.
That's the whole thing about this third row. We are the first generation in the history of mankind to be given the gift of longevity. Most people retired at 65 and they're dead at 68. Now we have, because of breakthroughs in public health and medical breakthroughs, we have another 10, 20, 30 years. We have another third of life to live. And what that needs to be done is to fill it out with a whole new meaning, a whole new purpose, and living a dynamic lifestyle. And really taking the time to do planning that future, I can't wait to leave. I can't wait to go to that.
And I think that you have to really visualize what it is you want to do. Really have that, as you said, that path has got to be, you really need to know what you're traveling down so that you can move toward it.
If you go to the next slide, please.
Sure.
Because this is exactly what you need to do is know what you want to do in all 10 aspects of your life.
Okay.
When you have a purpose and you have done a well thought out planning for what you want to do in each aspect, then you have a life that is both operational and tactical. Now you know what you want to do and then be able to know how to execute it.
Well, this is a great wheel. This is a great wheel. It's a good visual to touch on different parts, because I think, as you had said earlier, Jack, when people are like, oh, I'm just going to spend all my time with my grandchildren, that if you look at this wheel and you think, okay, that falls under activities with family, that's only one piece. It can't be all of it.
That's right, and again, when you like intellectual stimulation, most owners are solving a problem du jour, where they're going to when they keep their minds active, or when more is activity of spouses partners, is that baby boomers are the fastest growing demographics experiencing divorce.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be, in 1990 it was 10% of divorces were people. Now it's up to 25% and growing. In fact, in the legal profession, they got a term for it, gray divorce.
Yeah. I guess because people are thinking they're living so much longer.
Yeah, you got another third of life. You need to create a new climate change music.
God willing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I were looking at this wheel, how do I spend time sort of contemplating each piece of the pie? What do I do?
What you do is personal transition planning. What you do is you create the alternatives that we talked about, the upside and downside for each area, and then 6 options to fill of what you can possibly do. Again, what's the upside and downside of those options for the 10 aspects of your life. Then take a holistic approach and look at it. Where's the synergies and where's the contradictions of the different options? Mm-hmm. For me, if you want to do one, could totally negate you'll be able to do another option. And then use scenario planning. Okay, now I have this. What is it really feel like living the 2 of the options? What do I like about them? What don't I like about them? And then making a decision and then creating a tactical plan of how you're going to actually live it. The beauty is if you go out and you find out it's not exactly what you want, you already have 5 other options. You've done robust.
Yeah. No, that's good. Are we ready for our next polling question and the cover of the book?
Okay.
All right, so take a look at this, guys. This is a fun poll. So here we go. When you look at this, I'm going to read you the polling question, because I think when I launch the poll, it will cover your screen. So look at the picture. When you look at the image in the book cover, what do you see? A butterfly, two faces, cow, a chalice, or other? This is just a fun one, guys. Now we'll just see. So just jump on in here. Great, great. Yeah, that's what I saw too. Right now we've got like 91% are saying two faces. And, well, I'll
Two faces, interesting.
Yeah, I'll share the results before I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me share them. So most everybody's seen two faces.
Okay.
Remember that Opus wine, that Opus champagne that had the two faces, and it was a work, Opus's work, and it was like a French champagne and an American one. Anyway, that was what I thought of when I saw it, but maybe my head's just in champagne. Anyway, so what does it mean when most of us see two faces? Does it mean anything, Jack? Or is
it doesn't mean, no, that's a fun question, because when we made it, originally it was going to be a butterfly, and what it is, it's called an ambiguous image. So well, our brains usually does a lower image, we see the forms of things, and then it'll go to our higher level vision of our brain, say, okay, this is what it is. But this type of imagery, what happens is that it doesn't fall into that pattern. Like, for instance, I never saw the chalice. If you look at the bottom of the neck and up the nose, there's a chalice. Somebody brought that up. So all these different things were really brought up by people. When they looked at it, they all came back with different responses.
Well, what I just want to say while we've got the cover of the book up is that, remember, Jack's book is now available on Amazon. Again, so that's the 7 Principles for Living with Authenticity. So you can go to Amazon and buy that. And it helps to sort of be contemplative about these things. That's an important, it takes a little bit of work. Here are Jack's other books, Finding Your New Owner for Your Business and Your Life. Jack, you've done bookstore events and you do author speaking, right?
Yes, and also what we can do, speak at firms where they bring in prospects and clients in regards to this. We also have a co-branded program. So basically, for just in order to take either one of these books, a special cutout, a special edition with your firm's name, and then the back cover, your logo, and a marketing message, and your own ISBN number, which tells the publishing industry that it's uniquely your book.
Nice.
We have one upfront cost of $250, which is our cost to get that all done. But now you can give this out, and you can get the halo effect of the authenticity, saying that you are a trusted, genuine advisor who's concerned about the client. It's great marketing.
So not only can you use this for your own work and your own succession plan, but you can use it for working with your clients.
Correct.
We're coming up on the hour, so I want to be respectful of that. Here is Jack's contact information. So take a look at this, guys. If you want to take your phone and take a picture of that, we will also, you can reach out to us and we can forward you any information that you need. So this is a great, deep thinking kind of approach to succession planning. I am going to go on to Q&A. We've got a couple of questions here. So one of them is that this is a lot of focus on sort of internal. We haven't talked about multiple of revenue. We haven't talked about valuation. And we haven't mentioned any of that in our focus in this discussion, which is true. And the point was before we can begin the task of, and we can obviously get your valuation, we can talk about all the mechanics, but early on in the webinar, Jack was talking about how people want to deal with the concrete. What is black and white? And the numbers aspect of it really helps us feel like we've got a handle on it. And so that's part of why we tend to go to the concrete aspects as opposed to if we talk about the head and the heart, right? So those are the head issues, and heart issues are, am I ready to move forward? I had another question, and and it might have been a misunderstanding. The question is, what M&A companies are putting in penalties or fees for not following through on a transaction? So Jared, I don't know anyone who's not doing that, or who is rather doing a penalty. When I had said earlier that there's a lot of money lost, it's just the opportunity cost foregone for all parties involved. But no, I'm not aware of any particular or specific penalties. So great, good. I'm glad you're still with us. That's great. Thanks, Jared. So Jack, thank you so much for your time. And this has been very, very informative and very valuable and deep. And we need to take that time to think about these things. So thank you very much for.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you to our audience for taking the time to join us today for succession planning, what to do with your business and your life. We're very grateful that you're part of the REA Match community. Have a great afternoon, and this concludes our webinar. Thank you.